segment. Some of them are like some of the recent developments which have been in last 6 months. You know, there's One Electric, which is one of the largest EV, especially on the two-wheeler side in India. They have entered the market in collaboration with Steema, and they also have a local manufacturing facility, and they're planning to put in nearly 3,000 motorcycles every year, plus development of the charging infrastructure. Basigo, targeting 100 buses to be assembled locally using BYD CKDs. NBV, they are entering into the assembly segment of electric vehicles. Previous, please. What actually caught my attention in last few days is a company called Spyro, whose representative are there. They are planning to put 1 million electric vehicles onto the market. Okay, along with 3,000 battery charging stations. That's quite an ambitious target to have, and I wish them all the success. In terms of seriously. If this happens, it's going to dramatically change the shape of the landscape of e-mobility segment, actually. In terms of public announcements, I know most of the banks have their green finance portfolios. NCB has announced 2 billion shillings for electric vehicle funding. Watu Credit, again, they are partnering with ARC to have a local manufacturing here. They have partnered with another Japanese company called Mushahi to put 1,000 electric bikes by next year and 300 battery swap stations. Rome, the representatives are here. They have also they are also assembling electric buses. I think they have assembled. They have put on road 7 buses, and they have quite ambitious plans, especially targeting the BRT. Then the latest news, which everybody of you might be aware, that government of Kenya actually signed up with MCC, which works under the aegis of USAID for 8 billion shillings deal to put electric buses in the market. So these are they're quite a movement, actually, which gives you an idea that this sector is going to be quite full of activity and quite an exciting place to be. Next, please. Now, the question comes is that why GA? Of course, there is a market. We obviously want to be the pioneer in that particular segment. One of the unique things about our product is that it is certified carbon neutral. And what is carbon neutral? Again, my colleague Margaret will present it in her presentation. I leave that to her. And why it is, and why did we decide to get a carbon neutral certification? I can tell you that we are among the very few insurance companies around the world who actually have a carbon neutral product. I do not have corresponding data or a third-party verification in terms of how we are placed in Africa. Otherwise, I would have definitely said we are the first company in the entire African continent to have it, and definitely in Kenya. But we have a representation from a regulator. Maybe they can clarify, when using their own forums, whether this is true or not. But in Kenya, we are definitely the first company to get a carbon neutral product into the market. So, in terms of what we call climate promise, or in terms of in UN, where countries go and make a promise, and what is called as distributed contribution, Kenya has committed to take out equivalent of 3.6 million tons of carbon dioxide They reduce the emission by that, and overall greenhouse gases by 30%. So that's a very big commitment to make for a country like Kenya. So we felt that we should be part of that journey, and as a stakeholder in the entire ecosystem, we as insurance companies should actually go and take action on it rather than going to big summits and getting into gala dinners somewhere in New York or elsewhere and giving big speeches about it. Now, there's an interesting study by Stockholm Environment Institute and Southeast Kenya University, which have been published in April. Now, they did some baseline studies and projections. I've tried to reduce the jargon as much as possible there. So basically, it says that 61 transport sector is responsible for 61% of all nitrous oxide emissions in Kenya. 39% fine particulate matter, and 20% carbon dioxide. First two are very important because in terms of the contribution of nitrous oxide to global warming, it is 300 times more potent than carbon dioxide. So as an insurance guys, we are all aware of a term called GWP, and there is a new GWP here, global warming potential. And I think both the an insurance company, we should actually go hand in hand with both the GWPs. And then fine particulate matter is actually responsible for death of 19,000 Kenyans annually who die prematurely because of air pollution, and is responsible for 20 million Kenyans suffering respiratory problem. You know, as per United Nations Environment Program, the air quality in Nairobi is 70% over the safe levels. Okay, not below, it's over the safe levels. Okay. So we thought, how do we address this issue and become part of this journey? When we talk about United Nations principles of sustainable insurance, there are 4 principles with a lot of subsections. If you go to United Nations, if you go through United Nations SDGs, there are 17 principles. We cannot action in all of them. We decided to take a baby step, and we took inspiration from principle 3 of insurance to actually interact with various stakeholders, which involves the regulation, which involves the entire ecosystem and supply chain of the transport segment. E-mobility is a subsector of that, and to come up with a product which is environmentally sustainable and is beneficial and makes a positive contribution to the Kenyan society. And that was our inspiration for getting our product certified as carbon neutral. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Sandeep. Ladies and gentlemen, I think I have a new product as well. We shall call it the presentation cover. To cover all senior executives going on stage to do presentations and the clicker doesn't work. I think it will see great offtake because in this hotel only, they have sold at least 10 policies today on the presentation cover. But all in all, I think, fantastic statistics. Another feather to GA's cap in terms of, I think it's a powerful statement, Mr. Sandeep, saying we are number 1 in the categories that matter to us. Let whatever matters to everyone else matter to them, but we are number 1 where it matters. And you do have fodder for this evening's conversations when you go to chill out, right? You'll be the guy or the girl with the knowledge, spitting out statistics about EVs and the amazing stuff that they're doing. That move and shaker slide was particularly insightful. It paints a picture of the opportunity that's there. But I think a dotted line to the climate conversation that very many times remains unsaid. And it's a high.
But the one that is most intriguing to me is that if we do not take the correct strategies to correct the situation, then we're likely to have, we're likely to hand over a dilapidated planet to future generations. And from where I sit, there are instances that I've tried to picture my 80-year-old self trying to handle some very uncomfortable confrontations. Things like, Grandma, is it true that we are having this heat wave because of you and your generations not having done the correct thing? You know, we all need to invest in a very comfortable future, and the time to do it is right now. One of the ways to do that is to embrace the carbon neutrality label. So my role here is very brief, and I'll just make it as brief as that. I'd like you to understand what it means to be carbon neutral. And perhaps the best way to set stage for that is to introduce the topic with something that we're already familiar with. Every time you withdraw money from the bank, you do get a message, and it tells you your account was debited with X amount of money, right? And then when you deposit money into that account, what comes? Your account was credited with X amount of money. Now, carbon accounting works in exactly the same way. So human activity leads to emission of gases, the greenhouse gases. And for this purpose, for purposes of this discussion, we are going to use carbon neutral. We are going to use CO2 to represent those emissions. So every human activity that you perform leads to emission of these gases, okay? So all the gases which I'm responsible for emitting are going to be debited into my carbon inventory or carbon account. The only way to neutralize the impact of my carbon footprint is to conduct a climate conservation activity. Think about planting trees and such activities, okay? So these trees, for example, when we plant trees, they absorb the carbon which we emitted into the environment. So the amount of carbon which these trees are able to absorb from the environment are what are going to be credited into my account. So for you to be considered carbon neutral, okay, you ought to have done enough, planted enough trees to absorb the amount of carbon that you emitted into the environment. Is that clear? Okay? So when we set out into this journey in coming up with the first carbon neutral insurance cover, we did exactly that, but not for me as Margaret, we did it for the insurance cover. So what does it take? It's quite a journey. We began by, first of all, mapping the carbon footprint of an insurance policy. Think about the kind of activities that goes into administering an insurance product. And luckily for us, we got just the right consultants to do that. We are happy today that the event has been graced by Planet Moja. They worked together with My Carbon, and the assignment was very simple. Tell us how much carbon emission is associated with our insurance activities. So they mapped out the, what we call the life cycle assessment. Looking at an insurance cover right from the development stage, it goes through the marketing stage, it's going to be underwritten, and later on in case of a claim, there's going to be some administration involved in that. All those activities lead to emission of carbon. And in our inventory, we actually, our consultants were able to tell us how much carbon is actually emitted during that whole process. But something more intriguing that we'd later find out, of course, after being advised by the consultants, that we are not just responsible for the direct emissions that we make as an insurance company. It goes a bit further. So the subject which we are insuring here is a residual carbon, and that was debited to our account. Then the next task that we had to do is to identify avenues for reducing our carbon footprint. So things like paperwork, we are going to minimize it as far as the GA EcoDrive is concerned, and we were able to identify some more strategies that will take place in the long term. But then we can only reduce it to a certain extent. However much we try, there's still going to be some residual emissions associated with this insurance cover. So for those residual emissions, we went to the carbon credits market. And I think now it all adds up. We now needed to purchase enough carbon credits to make sure that our account is neutralized. And that is how we met the conditions to be now called, for this product to be certified as carbon neutral. Now this doesn't just happen in a vacuum. There are standards that accompany this, and specifically for this assignment, there is the first standard is the GHG protocol. The second one is ISO 146.7, and that is how we qualified to get the PAS 2060 certification. Now for me, I look at this as such a game changer. You know, I've followed closely the conversation that goes on every time we have these global forums on climate change, etc. Specifically the COP 26 all the way to 27, now we're waiting for COP 28. There is always the element of financing, okay? If you look at this structure, you notice that as an insurance company, first of all, we have taken the step to look at our product and map its carbon footprint. So we are being transparent and we are being accountable in our activities. The next thing we've done, we have gone to the carbon credits market and purchased enough carbon to offset our footprint. What we are basically doing is financing climate conservation strategies. And I think that is going to be a game changer. If every single person being a decision maker here today was to adopt this, then we will be able to unlock the much needed funds to finance this climate conservation strategies. So mine is just to urge everybody, if you haven't thought this direction already, I think it is a good time to give it a serious thought. We could actually be heading towards the right direction. And I also just want to thank the Product Development Committee. You did a good job in supporting this whole exercise. And this far we have come, and even in the future engagements, because getting the certificate is one thing, but in future we have to monitor and make sure that any further emissions that are going to be associated with GA EcoDrive will have to be offset. And that is my submission, so I'd like to invite Dilawar to take us through the insurance aspects of it.
Sorry. Being a fat guy, I have to take alternative routes. Anyway, Margaret, did you manage to do the homework I asked you to do for me?
Of course, Dilawar, you know, I treat your assignments with the weight that it deserves.
Thank you. So what did you get for me?
Yeah, I was able to identify a very good EV for you.
Uh-huh.
It's brand new, 0 mileage. it's able to get to full charge in just about 1 hour using a fast charger. And it can go up to 250 kilometers on full charge.
Okay.
I think, Delaware, this is going to be so good for you. Yeah?
And you actually think a fat dude like me is going to fit in that? Hey.
So you heard it from Delaware. The Tall People's Association have they have spoken, so please consider their concerns in future designs.
Thank you. Okay, so basically, my presentation is going to cover why EcoDrive, why we should go for the GA EcoDrive cover, the policy extensions, and any questions that you might have so that I can respond to them. Okay, so fine. So basically, this is a one-of-a-kind insurance policy that has been designed to protect you against the unique risks associated with using your electric vehicle. Rest assured that the most important components of your electric vehicle are covered. Now, whenever you buy a normal motor cover from any person or from any prudent underwriter, right, and you tell them that it's a hybrid or it's an EV, the first thing they're going to tell you, I'm sorry, but we cannot cover the battery. Technically, there are reasons for that, but for laymen, let's just say that because the battery covers almost 30 to around 70% of the value of the car, the risk of that battery getting damaged means that any claim concerning the battery will become a total loss. So any prudent underwriter is going to say, no, we cannot cover the battery for you. The EcoDrive cover does cover batteries. Okay? Also for EVs, the peculiarity of EV is having a charging cable, right? Now we all know that we are still in the nascent stages of having the infrastructure in place. So you might end up having to drag your charging cable over open space to connect it to a port. Somebody walks on it or damages it, right? A normal motor is not going to cover you for that. The EcoDrive cover will cover you for that. Now, a private charging station. A normal car is never going to have a private charging station. As per our research, you can have two types. They can be portable and they can be fixed, right? Our product is going to cover both. Now, our product is also designed to cover cars. It's open to cover cars, vans, buses, motorcycles, scooters, tuk-tuks, and bicycles. Yes, you did not hear me wrong. Bicycles. We are actually seeing bicycles in the market which are actually electric. This product can cover that as well. Okay. Next slide. So, I will not go in order. Our product will also cover autonomous driving. So, for a layman, what is autonomous driving? Basically, it is moving a vehicle with less and less human intervention as technology improves. So currently, I think in the local market, there are certain very, very high-end vehicles which have lane assist, which have parking assist, all right. And as the technology improves, maybe in time, in the West, already you are seeing driverless cars. I don't know how long that will take to come here, but we need to be ready for it, right? So we are covering that, okay? We have also cyber attack coverage. So, you know, if you drive a car like mine, cyber attack is the last thing you're ever going to think about, right? But when you have a car like this, okay, you've got to be worried because if you are doing autonomous driving on such advanced cars, if an accident was to occur, a normal policy cover is not going to cover you because you need to have somebody seated there and who's responsible for that car. You cannot tell him the computer was responsible. No underwriter is going to tell you, is going to cover you for that. Okay, we will. All right. We are also covering you for cover for injury and damage caused by a charging cable. Now, if you rewind to what I told you earlier, you have to drag your cable over open ground to connect it to a charging port. Somebody trips over that wire, breaks his head. Who's going to pay for that? Who's going to help you in that time? GA will, with EcoDrive. Okay. We are also offering an out-of-charge recovery benefit. So basically, you're driving your car. We all know the technology, the infrastructure is not yet where it should be. You end up finishing the charge. So you're stuck. What do? We will help you get to the nearest charging port. Okay? That also we will provide. Now, as I said, the technology in these cars are really, really advanced. Right? So your in-car entertainment unit and satellite navigation system is going to be off the charts compared to my car, obviously. But generally, yes, it's going to be off the charts. We will provide cover for that as well. So, this is not to say the other motor covers motor insurance that you are used to getting in your normal motor don't exist in this cover. They are all there. Everything you're used to getting is all there. But in addition, you get all those other benefits because you're buying an EV and it has risks or characteristics peculiar or particular to that kind of motor vehicle. So all these other benefits that you normally get, you will get in that as well. So, any queries, questions? Okay, thank you. Appreciate your time.
One question.
There's a question here.
Yes, sir.
Let me.
The product, I presume, is going to be much cheaper than the traditional car.
Sir, you're open to contact us. We will talk.
Thank you, Margaret and Dilawar. I think we'll be more intentional about how we walk on this earth. In Swahili, they say tembea kwa upole, because many of us don't actually think about what our carbon footprint is. You saw His Excellency the President. He was using a car similar to the one Margaret has purchased for Dilawar, and if he's already installing the charging station at State House, it would be fantastic if we saw the entire senior leadership at government adopt that, right? We actually give them right of way. We're like, yeah, that's the CS right there. That's the entourage with a small carbon footprint. I mean, it's amazing. Dilawar actually said at the end that all the other stuff that you get is already there. And he actually highlighted the little things, and that is what matters. Whoever thinks of tripping on a wire, until you trip, and then you're like, okay, let me call the insurance, and they're like, sorry, no, we don't cover that. And I think that's delightful that you're actually focusing on those elements and saying your normal stuff is actually well taken care of. We've accommodated it, and we're actually looking out for you. These are the things that you haven't thought of. You're driving to Naivasha, and technology fails, your battery goes from, it's happened to your phones, right? You charge this thing at 100 this morning, what is it at now? And you've got 100 kilometers to go. Who's coming for you there? It's GA. So I think that those are some of the salient points that actually stand out for me, saying it's the small things that matter, and it's important that we amplify those. Now, right before we unveil the new product, it's important that we hear from the regulator. And I'd like to invite on stage Teresa Mboro from the IRA. Welcome.
Good morning, everyone. There are various stakeholders in this room, so I will observe the protocols that have already been established. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great moment for the Kenyan insurance industry, and as the Insurance Regulatory Authority, we are very happy to be part of this occasion. It's a great moment for us with the launch of the GA EcoDrive electric vehicle insurance cover. It's actually a game changer with a comprehensive coverage that has already been presented to us. It's interesting to note that the cover includes the battery, the charging cable cover, private charging station, autonomous driving, cyber attacks, and injury on damage caused by charging cables. And it is also important to note that the members of the Fat People's Association have also been taken care of in the scope of cover. So I'm hoping that we are not going to have any consumer complaints in terms of discrimination by virtue of the size of the vehicles and the insurance coverage that is being offered by GA. This occasion is actually a testament of GA commitment to environmental sustainability and support of the government for the e-mobility initiatives. As per the presentation by Sandeep, 5%, the government plans that 5% of the registered vehicles in 2025 will be electric vehicles. So you can see the government has been quite serious and very committed in terms of e-mobility. It is also a great opportunity to showcase the support of the insurance industry to the business models and players in the value chain in the e-mobility segment. And I believe quite a number of the players in the value chain are present in this room. This is also quite an encouragement to all players in the insurance market, and I'm hoping that all the various regulated entities within the value chain of the product offer to the market, that they're actually prepared to offer the necessary services that may be required. And it's actually an actualization of the principles of sustainable insurance that the authority is really trying to deliberately ensure that the industry adopts. So it is actually a good moment, and I'm happy that GA is taking issues of sustainable insurance very seriously. And it's actually a very good initiative that GA has really come out publicly and made that bold move. On climate action on transport sector, road transport is responsible for 98% of the emissions in the transport sector, and I actually like the future is electric. In that will also help in improving the air quality in our environment. To the GA board, management, and all the staff members, congratulations. For this bold step. It's actually a great moment for the insurance industry, and it's actually the first time that I'm attending an occasion whereby a company is launching this kind of product, or a product covering the electric motor vehicle industry, and I'm hoping that it will be encouragement to other players in the market to be able to do so. And the fact that you've put in a lot of effort and resources that have culminated in the launch of this project. And I also congratulate you for obtaining the carbon neutral certification for the product. That's quite a good move, and it's very encouraging actually that we are now conscious of the kind of products that we are offering and the impact on the environment. And I'm hoping that after this event, we'll be planting trees in the context of carbon neutrality, as has been presented by one of your staff members, and that will be able to get an opportunity to learn or get to know more about carbon debits and the carbon credits. So thank you very much, and congratulations to everyone who has made this possible and who has made it a success. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Teresa, from the IRA. And now we are at that pivotal time that we've been waiting for. And I'd love to request the senior leadership from GA Insurance, starting with Director Sachit Shah, Director Joseph Chungu, Group CEO Vijay, our CEO Mr. Sandeep, accompanied by Teresa, to join me on stage. So if you could kindly join me on stage, use the staircase on the other side, please. Oh, and also the director, Mr. Sundaraj, to join us on stage. Other side, please, kindly. And as a point of information, the room will be dimmed, and there will be confetti. There might be a loud bang. It's up kindly. It's up kindly. And there may be a loud bang. This is not what the guy who opened for us was referring to. This is part of our razzmatazz. So just train your eyes on the stage. Our photo people, if you could help Kutupanga. This is the and right after that, I think we'll have some photo ops as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, the grand unveiling of the GA EcoDrive cover happens now. Round of applause. Oh, the thing on the left is the charging station. So you could flip that as well, and nice eyes, right? So on the side shows the EV charging module. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I think it deserves another round of applause as we do take another photo opportunity moment. Are our photographers satisfied? Do you need them to stand any differently? Thank you for providing that balance, Teresa. Much needed in spaces like this as well. So thank you. I'll request Teresa to take her seat and for the gentleman to stay on stage. As Margaret and Delaware spoke during their presentation, the GA EcoDrive cover had to meet very stringent requirements and standards to verify its carbon neutral status. And we do have a certificate to show this. And I'd like to call on Mr. Stefano Cassini, who's the Planet Moja CEO, to present the certificate to Director Sachit, witnessed by our other eminent persons. The certificate is towards this side. So gentlemen, you could scoot over to this corner. And Stefano, would you like to say a few words as well?
Maybe just a couple.
Okay.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Is this working?
Yes, it is.
My name is Stefano Cassini. I'm here on behalf of Planet Moja and My Carbon. I'd just like to say that very part of this pioneering initiative.
Because there's a huge amount of intellectual capital which has been put on development and research of this product. Thank you, madam.
Fantastic. We're waiting for the last few seats to come on stage. And I keep going back to the features of the, of the cover. I personally, you have a phone, your much beloved phone that lasts for long, but the charging cable doesn't, right? And I think it's fantastic. When you see some of these environments where these charging stations are, over tarmac, over kokoto, over earth, it's only a matter of time before, it wears out, and this infrastructure is expensive. So I think back to the little things that matter and why this product is right on the mark. Are those sufficient now? One more. So the moderator for this session is a gentleman who may be well known to many of you. He's the chief actuary and managing director at Kenbright, and he's Mr. Ezekiel Macharia. And I'll ask him to come forward, and I'll be helping him introduce. I think Ezekiel will take this mic. I'll help introduce the other people on the panel. First on the panel, of course, is our gracious host. The term is called insurance distribution. Mr. Sandeep, I'll ask you to join us on stage. Round of applause to welcome him on stage, tafadhali. Looking at the EV manufacturing space, we've got Rishi Holi of Fika Mobility. Representing EV infrastructure, John Misingo from EV Charger. They're the guys installing the charging station at State House. Looking at technology intermediaries and enablers, Jihan Abbas from Lami, Karibu. Going into the financing space, we've got Dustin from MCOPA. And last but not least, looking at the ride-hailing ecosystem, we've got Kranavir Singh from Yego. So Ezekiel, over to you.
Thank you very much. So today we are talking about being green, and the theme for today is adaptation of green insurance solutions for the e-mobility sector. In essence, we're looking at how can this support the SDGs. So I have a very good panel here that is looking at all aspects of the EV. Obviously, we are, apart from GA, our CEO here, Sandeep, we also have Rishi, who's an EV manufacturer for Fika Mobility. And also, we also have John, who's in the EV infrastructure. He's the one setting up the charging stations at EV Charger Limited. We have Jihan Abbas, who's in the InsurTech space with Lami. We also have Dustin from MCOPA, where they're doing the financing of the sector. We also have the ride-hailing service, Yego, Karanivir. Karan, okay. Yeah, thanks.
You see a car coming towards you and then you run.
So I'll start with John. And the question for you is, how can electric vehicle insurance contribute to reduce the carbon footprint of the transport sector? And what role does it play in achieving our carbon neutral goals?
Thank you for the question. First of all, I'd like to thank our hosts. This is a great job here. So one of the earlier presentations was about how much carbon is actually released. So most countries, if you were to look at it, majority of their greenhouse gas emissions actually come from the generation of electricity, using fossil fuels like coal and burning generators. But in Kenya, we have 93% of renewable energy. So what that means is that we have a very clean green, very clean grid. With this product, what we are saying now is that it has literally shown that EVs work and that it's a thumbs up in the right direction. And for all the companies that are here, if they were not thinking about taking EVs, now they have a major insurer who are willing to take the risk and help them transition.
Thank you very much. I think now I'll turn over to Sandeep and the issue of circular economy. So what measures are in place to ensure that this product you've just launched for us today is looking at the supporting development of the circular economy, particularly concerning EV components and also materials?
Actually, you see, the basic, by definition, circular economy is when you have an ecosystem wherein you are able to circulate a certain underlying, and it actually delivers value when it moves from phases to one phase to another. So the basic and circular economy with context to, especially G20 nations or the global south, is quite is a quite important concept. So if you see the way the EV space is there, now all the rare earth materials which is actually going to manufacture battery mostly comes from Africa. In fact, it's not far from Kenya. However, we don't have the manufacturing capability. So basically what it results is an export and re-import of the same materials which actually is produced by Africa. Now, now if you see how the material transforms when it actually moves into particular phases. If we have our own manufacturing capability based in Kenya, then it actually has a trickle-down effect in creating an entire supply chain and an ecosystem. So that will, when actually the transformation happens from one phase to another, the rare earth becomes battery, battery becomes part of a chassis, which becomes part of a vehicle, which carries the passengers, and then you have a grid and an infrastructure facility to service that particular facility. So you are creating value. Now, what as an insurance company we are trying to do, we are trying to get into that phase and facilitate a certain movement. So we are not doing something revolutionary in changing the way it works, but actually taking a very small baby step in facilitating the movement and creation of value in the local economy in the sustainable segment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So Dustin, you finance people, and so this product is coming to de-risk you. You know, the role of insurance is to de-risk the market. So coming into the EV space, how do you view the role of this insurance product encouraging innovation and development of new technologies in the electric mobility sector where you're looking into financing?
Yeah, thanks. Happy to be here. And again, thanks for the amazing product thinking that's gone into this. You know, for us at Mkopa, we've been, you might know us as an asset finance company focused on solar or phones or other assets, but we've been focused on e-mobility for 2 years. Yeah, before all of this, everyone's talking about things this year quite a bit in the press, right? But what's important is that there's other companies like GA that have also been thinking about this well ahead of the curve, right? And we're all focused on overcoming a lot of a trust barrier, essentially, for customers, right? The economy right now faces a lot of challenges, especially the two-wheeler customers that we're focused on, right? And what we see right now is that the economics are quite compelling, right, for riders to switch, but what they need is someone to trust, right? And when we're talking about trust, we're talking about not risk mitigation for us as a financier. We're less important, right? Our risks will be mitigated if the consumer's risks are mitigated. Yeah, and we're talking about personal accident, healthcare cover. Folks don't know what they're taking a jump and a leap of faith, right? And so I think the companies up here and the product thinking that has gone into this product and what we're all struggling with is how do we help consumers to take a leap of faith that will help Kenya, help the world, and help consumers' pockets, right? But what we're finding right now is that trust is the most important thing in the market to keep things moving, and that's going to be what's making that environmental impact.
Yeah, thank you very much. Karanveer, at Ego, you're looking at creating an environment where people can just, use these bikes. But there's an issue people don't talk about, the disposal of batteries in terms of the issues of the environmental impact and recycling potential. Where do you see insurance companies coming in to support you in that discussion about disposal and environmental impact of these batteries?
Well, first I'd like to thank GA for inviting me, and I think their foresight in bringing about an insurance product is going to be a game changer for the EV industry because no other company has thought about insuring these kind of vehicles. As you know, in a EV vehicle, about 60% of the cost of the vehicle is a battery. And one of the biggest concerns that people have had is that if the battery depletes in 5 to 6 years, are you really clean if you cannot dispose of that battery in environmentally friendly manner? So one of the things that the insurance policy talks about is the fact that they even cover the battery, which to me actually came as a bit of a surprise. And if you look at the motorcycle part of the business, it's quite likely that the batteries packs would be assembled locally to meet the local content requirements. And those batteries would probably have a life of 5 to 6 years. The challenge I see is with the larger vehicles, especially with the cars that are being imported, where the battery is already 5, 6 years old. And now those batteries would need to be recycled, but God forbid they were involved in an accident, and GA then says, okay, we would take the responsibility of providing you with a replacement, which would come at a significant cost. They would need to do some kind of a cost recovery from the battery that was damaged. Because normally when a part gets damaged and an insurance company replaces it, that part then should basically go back to the insurance company to be able to recover something from that. I don't believe that there is an industry in place in Kenya today, but I think looking at the growth or the trajectory that one expects and the number of batteries that would need to be then disposed of, it's a great opportunity for some industrialists to come up. And if you look at America, where they've been able to do it, they've done it in a very intelligent fashion. So there are companies that take apart and actually extract the minerals back, and they recycle the entire process. So the yield is roughly at about 30%, but I think as technology improves, that would go up. So I think recycling and the fact that GA is already supporting this initiative, they would also now be able to support feeding these batteries that they are replacing because of any damage to an industry that can recycle them. Thank you.
Yep.
There's one comment I would like to add to what Karanveer has said. One of the figures in terms of environmental challenges which one faces is the challenge and the risk of contamination. Now, GA as an insurance company, we do provide environmental liability insurance covers, which actually covers the decontamination costs and associated costs, which cost due to the sudden and accidental pollution while actually handling such risks. So we are actually quite a significant provider in that particular segment.
Yeah, environmental liabilities are very key insurance, especially in the large-scale area. And then now I'll turn to Jihan in the tech space. Looking at distributors, technology partners, fintechs, insurance companies, how do you see yourself as a stakeholder in supporting the creation of an ecosystem that's conducive to the transition to clean energy?
First of all, thank you, Sandeep, for inviting us to this. We've been working on, maybe just to explain what we do first, we're a digital provider of insurance products. So we get a lot of these innovative companies coming to us looking for some of these products that they are not able to find with traditional insurers. So we actually approached GA, I think, July of last year, because we were getting a lot of requests for EV-related products. So we started to speak to them then, trying to explain to them, the kinds of businesses that were coming into the market. So for us, it's really important to be able to be at the forefront of some of these products that are being developed so that we're able to actually distribute them to some of these partners that are coming to us and requesting these products. But it's super exciting for us to actually see that the product is now here. So for us, it's more about now being able to take this and now distribute it to a lot of the people that were coming to us and requesting it. But I think there's also another layer, right? Because this is just the first step of the kind of product that could be a success within sort of this environmental space. So I think it's really exciting to have partners such as GA that are willing to listen to the market and to see the opportunities and to actually take hold of those opportunities by creating relevant products. I think a lot of the time, a lot of underwriters are afraid to go into risks that they don't understand. So for us, it's super exciting to just be a part of this and to be able to actually distribute these products to a lot of the tech or sort of tech companies that are coming up within this space.
Yeah, thank you very much. Now I'll turn to Rishi. We saw earlier, Sandeep showed us 2 million cars, but very few cars are EV cars. So what strategies should be in place to incentivize fleet operators and businesses to transition to electric vehicles, considering the potential for significant impact on the sustainability angle?
Thank you, Sandeep. GA is such a fantastic initiative. Actually, from a FICA point of view, as a two-wheeler electric motorbike company, we faced a big challenge 2 years ago on insurance. And I think, Sandeep, you and I had a conversation, and they were kindly able to mitigate and have 24 of our bikes immediately insured. Incentives, I think financial incentives from the government, for fleet operators. So maybe reduce, there's already incentives on importation coming in on sort of EV imports. So that's a great step in the right direction from the government. But actually for end users, even a sort of financial incentive for when they're actually using such EV vehicles. And that should be there. It happens in other countries. For example, in India, they have the FAME 2-3 initiatives where they've had lower interest rate calculations for microfinance. And I think that's one way to go about it. The other one is clear and actually monitoring the amount of emissions that happen and a target to zero emissions. It's all good putting out numbers out there, but how do we monitor it and how do we actually, be accountable for it? And I think with an insurance partner, they have the data and they can also help the government and other stakeholders ensure that such incentives are in place and that the government can monitor such incentives if they're giving tax relief and so on and so forth.
Thank you very much, Rishi. Now back to Sandeep. You've just launched a very good insurance product for the electric vehicle world. But now, what about collaboration? How do you look at fostering collaboration among the various stakeholders? You've had discussions on incentives from government, energy providers, electric vehicle manufacturers. Where do you see yourself, the role of GA in creating a holistic approach to sustainable transportation?
Yeah, a very interesting question. Actually, if you see in the whole the conversation till date, what has happened, insurance industry was basically out of the conversation. So even I participated in a talk show with John, and one of the things where it was discussed, what should be the standards for electrical connection when you was not part of that discussion. And even if you see a lot of talk which is being done which is being put forward by various multilateral agencies like GIZ, FSD. Somehow insurance company is not part of that impact. So now actually we are part of the conversation because here is an industry where the core theme is sustainability. E-mobility is all about sustainability. And now you have GA coming up with a sustainable product and getting enjoined in the sustainable conversation. Now, as we proceed, now we'll have to see how, as an insurance company, we actually actualize the sustainable principles of insurance as been envisioned by United Nations. Now it is all about thinking ahead and actually creating an impact. And that is what GA as an insurance company will be focusing on, and I'm quite sure that other insurance company will slowly start from the sidelines, will start becoming part of this particular conversation.
Yeah, maybe John, you can chime in.
Yeah, just to add, so Tesla have actually started their own insurance wing. This insurance works in a very funny way. They actually take your riding data, and then after that, they give you a score at the end of the month on your safety. This then informs what you will pay the next month as your premium. It would be interesting if we could give matatus and bodas the same kind of product.
John, even though I say, but I can tell you, Margaret and her team is working on a particular project, especially on Boda Boda, to use rider data to determine the pricing of the insurance.
Yeah, actually, this brings me to Rishi, who's, Fika Motorbikes. Obviously, building such solutions will require you to provide some kind of technology to support such engagements. Maybe share some insights on how that can be implemented in terms of how do you see yourself providing that data to support these conversations like what we just mentioned earlier?
Sure. So look, we live in a very data-driven economy today. So Fika, amongst other motorbike operators, EV motorbike operators, including charging, our battery has an IoT BMS system, a battery management system in there. It's fully integrated with our backend. We're able to see the full driver or rider data in terms of how much kilometers they used, what sort of geographical GPS locations they went, even down to what sort of parking time, downtime they had. It helps us understand their sort of actual riding time. From a safety point of view, I think we're still a little away from it. That needs a lot of investment, probably some sort of AI analytics to come into that, but it is available, but at a cost. But we can definitely provide data to, of course, insurance and other stakeholders to see how the metrics are working for riders. And that has actually helped us, for example, to understand rider behavior, but also understand where we need to deploy our charging swap locations, which again, is very critical for an enterprise like ourselves, and then when we need to partner with others, whether it's through microfinance companies, charging infrastructure companies as well. So the data is very available, and I'm sure all the other operators have similar IoT BMS devices integrated into their systems.
Yeah, thank you very much.
If I could just jump in there. So one of the very important things that was brought up, what you said Tesla was doing, but it's something that we started doing in Rwanda about 6 years ago, is especially in the Boda Boda sector, if you look at the number of people who die on the roads or who gets severely injured or maimed for life, the human capital cost is huge. Nobody has driving rashly yesterday, you could charge him a higher premium the next day. So he can
Money man, where do you see yourself plugging into such discussions where, you know, an insurer has a chance to implement such solutions? Are you looking at such areas in terms of supporting such discussions?
Great, yeah, let's do it. I mean, obviously the amount of downtime that a motorbike has, just purely from a financial perspective, right? Like everyone loses with poor riding behavior, yeah? The family of the rider, and the insurer, the financier. So we're really actively trying to participate with other stakeholders in finding these solutions. Things like temporary disability is another good example, right? So how do you structure that product so that there's not moral hazard, right? That does deal with the reality that almost every single rider that we finance will get into an accident, very unfortunately, right? At some point during a 2-year loan term. So how do you support them through those times, but still structure a product that incentivizes the right behavior? So I think we're, you know, we also, MCOPA is not just a financier. We also have our own IoT BMS that we work with OEM partners that we provide. I'm going to go back and talk to our tech and firmware team right now and take your suggestion. But I think let's collaborate on driving the right incentives together for the industry, because at the end of the day, we have to drive the costs down, and we have to drive the carbon impact up, and we have to drive the human life impact down, right?
Yep. So over to Jihan. As a tech provider, do you see uptake of such solutions where people want to do pay-as-you-go monthly payments? What's the appetite of the consumer to pay more to have a gadget installed? What are your thoughts around that discussion?
I think it's really high because for people, for most of the time, a lot of these insurance products are quite expensive. And I think it's sort of driving the wrong message when, you know, people who have different risk different risk profiles are being charged the same, right? So I think when we first started, we launched our first product in 2020, January of 2020. It was the first car insurance app ever for products. And at that time, we actually wanted to do the pay-as-you-drive, but there was no underwriter that was willing to support such an initiative. So I think that there's definitely, you know, appetite from the population. I think we've seen a lot of success in places like South Africa, in the UK and other markets where people are actually, you know, being charged as they should. Because there's no reason that somebody who's just driving their kids to school and going to work should be charged the same as people who are driving out of town or doing long distance trips all the time. So I think it would be quite interesting to see, you know, these kinds of things being brought to the market. But I think the ideas are there, but you just need the right underwriting partners to actually support some of these initiatives to bring them to life.
Thank you very much. So third and final question, I'll ask the same question to everybody, which is really, it's a very simple question. What does Kenya need to do, and maybe the general East African market needs to do to support adoption of, sustainable solutions like electric vehicles? What do the insurance companies to do? What do governments need to do? Obviously, because you don't want people like GA to launch a great product and then there are very few, products, very few cars that can use this product. So what needs to happen in the market, and at least we have our regulator with us today, and also many other stakeholders in this room. So in your opinion, what needs to happen, for this to happen to support EV adoption and general sustainability discussions? So we'll start with Sandeep, going down.
Great question, Ezekiel. I will give the point of view, what I think as an insurer. Okay. First of all, in terms of e-mobility, you need to understand that e-mobility is not cheap. So sustainability as a business, presently as we see, is not a cheap enterprise. We are waiting, as I showed in one of the slides, the cost of battery, how it is coming down, and as per the Bloomberg data which I presented, that presently from a range of 35% to 50%, how by 2030 it should be around 20% of the 20% of the vehicle cost. So when we are talking about sustainability, so there should be a sense of responsibility also from the e-mobility industry to adopt sustainable insurance products. Because during that time, what happens is that if we get into 100 shillings and 99 shillings conversation, then actually the viability of the product, it hits the viability of the product. You see, if you sum up, what is insurance industry all about? You have a risk, you pay a premium to us to transfer the financial aspect of the risk. So at the end of the day, the whole insurance business, if you have to reduce it to one line, is how much premium you are collecting and how much claims you are paying corresponding to the risk premium you are collecting. So I actually expect, and I also request, the players in the sustainability ecosystem to have a responsible consumption of insurance as well, so that the viability of the product is taken up, so that, because once you have a high proliferation of this kind of product, certain amount of cost will automatically come down. Second thing is the availability of the carbon market. When we started doing research on on this particular product, we were very much insistent that our first priority for sourcing carbon credits should be from Kenya. If it is not available, then it should be from the global south. So now, once we identified the projects for which we can source the carbon credits in Kenya, we were not able to buy it. In fact, we had to use an intermediary based in UK to buy the carbon credits, which origins in Kenya. And then we had certain standards also. It should be based on, it should at least have a gold standard credit to make it much more credible. The other thing is also that there is one player who is actually missing in the conversation, but they play a very important role. That is the reinsurance industry. So we have representatives from the reinsurance industry. That is where actually they also need to open up their minds. So certain things like user data-based pricing. Now, when we start structuring this kind of products, we face a lot of resistance from the reinsurance industry. Suppose if you want to come up with an incentive scheme that you have a property or a building or any kind of asset, and depending on the kind of sustainable practice you want to take, we want to incorporate that element into the pricing, what we call the sustainable pricing model. Now, we cannot 100% go ahead unless and until we have the support from the reinsurance industry. So that is where actually so in terms of reinsurance pricing, presently what happens is that insurance companies are missing from the conversation. So reinsurers are having their own conversation and coming up with certain things with no so for consultation with the insurance industry. I think that interaction has to increase, and I would urge the members of the reinsurance industry to take this conversation forward, and I can guarantee you, you will find a willing partner to have this particular conversation as well. So these are certain things from an insurance perspective we think can be done to create, this is just the beginning. Actually, we need to open up the tap in terms of sustainability, which is still not being done.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Rishi, what needs to happen? Does everybody here needs to live with a Fika bike? I can see one here. What needs to happen to increase, adoption, sustainability, where we want to be?
Well, I'd love everyone to go with a Fika bike, and we have enough microfinances in the room, I think, who'd be happy to finance you as well. Look, I'm going to take the conversation back 2 years. For 2 years, all the electric mobility players, we've been battling with the government to get incentives. And, there's been a lot of joint collaboration that came about in the last 6 months through the Electric Mobility Association of Kenya, primarily driven by Moses, who's just left the room, and so is Hezbron, who are the chair and treasurer, John, Dustin. That has led to these incentives being given by the government. So we now have a common voice within the E-Mobility Association. Sandeep talks about dialogue, so we're here to listen. And let's continue with all players, whether it's microfinance, other stakeholders. It's good to see the regulator supporting this today as well. And I think these sort of participation of events is critical to accelerate the adoption. And the association, I think, was key in getting these incentives. And now we have dialogue going on with EPRA, so we actually have charging infrastructure regulations. The government has also set up a e-mobility task force, which has enabled dialogue with us. So we're now feeding in as an association with all the players. Yes, we're competitors on the road, so to speak, but we all have a common interest to make sure that the right product comes in. So I think that is critical.
Yeah. John, you're the ones putting up these charging stations, but I see you only putting up for bikes. What about, people in this room? I don't think there's anybody riding a bike. When do you expect us to start seeing charging stations for four-wheelers and being, everywhere? So what needs to happen? Because insurance is there, the product is here now. Where are the cars?
Yeah. So interestingly, EV charger is mainly focused on four-wheelers. We don't do bikes. We have our charging points, about 6 in the country. We put up a charging point in Nakuru, Kisumu, Mombasa, Nanyuki. And we're putting up one today at State House. I'll check on that. Just going back to touch on Richie's points. Such kind of events are what will actually make the industry grow. As industry, we can't keep talking to each other. We need the other supporting players to take up their role. GA, this is fantastic. This is, I really have to commend you for this. Like I said earlier, other players will look and wonder, why are we being left out? So far, the banks actually have spoken about having facilities. Richie, have you gotten? Yeah, so GA, great point. You've taken leadership in this industry, and what we need is more people like GA from other industries as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Lami, in terms of InsurTech, you've had Sandeep talk about the reinsurers and not providing these products. But what can you do in terms of, from a distribution perspective, tech perspective, supporting distribution of products? What do you think needs to happen? What do you think is missing for proliferation of such, climate, sustainability-related products?
I think for us, it's really just to get the products to the right customers, the right people who are actually bringing up these technologies into the market. We ourselves use technology as well, so the process of which these products are being distributed as well is more efficient and effective. So for us, that's the key thing. But just, I mean, I know a lot of people have spoken about, you know, incentives and all that, but at the end of the day, I think the transmission systems here is really a big hindrance, in the sense that although the cost of power may not be that high, the loss of power getting to these charging stations, although they may be set up, you know, the infrastructure is not really there to support the low cost and the effectiveness of these kinds of products. So I think that's, you know, the government is doing a lot, but I think that's the key thing that really needs to happen for major adoption.
Yeah, thank you very much. So Dustin from MCOPA, the role of insurance is to de-risk you. You know, what do they need to do to enable you to use more of these insurance products? In terms of discussing in the, you know, going into the sustainability world, what do you think needs to happen for you to be, you know, I don't know, maybe reduce the cost of credit or maybe give it to more people? What do you think needs to happen to really, you know, bring us towards this sustainability journey?
Sure, yeah. Look, as financiers, there's certainly macro challenges that we face, right? The FX environment, cost of capital, these things we're all dealing with, right? But I want to bring it a little bit back again to where I started, which is de-risking for those of us on the stage and those of us in the room. It also has to start with de-risking the decision for the consumer. Yeah? And the reality is there's a lot of products out there that may not be perfect, but that are really, I think, good enough to provide significant value. But how are we working together to de-risk that decision to allow someone the freedom to make a decision that, again, is going to save, in the case of a motor rider, 300 bob per day, likely, on average, right? And so things like maybe warranty backing insurance, right? One of the most common questions we get from riders are, okay, when is this battery actually going to die, and how am I going to be stranded, right? Or where do I actually fix this thing when I'm in trouble, right? Or who's going to get me when I'm stranded? So it's those things right now. As Rishi mentioned, like, frankly, we can't really kind of complain. The government's done quite a bit in the last year to help bring the costs down. So now it's on us to say, how can we make this work for the consumer, and de-risking that decision. So I think we start with that, the battery risk, the maintenance risk, things like that. How can we work together to give them comfort? You know, one example is we have a free returns policy. Yeah, 9 out of 10 of our customers prefer their electric motorbike to their old motorbike, but they don't know that they will prefer it until they try it. Yeah, so how can we all work together to support that decision? Yeah.
Karanveer, you have a very interesting concept with Diego. So first of all, we would like to see that concept where you just have bike somewhere. I take one with my phone, and I go where I want to go. But what do you think is or rather blocking or not causing you to be, where you want to be in the market? And how do you think the insurance market can assist in that, in that endeavor?
Well, I think I've talked about the insurance industry. I think what the gap is, if you look around the world, it's all about money, honey, in the end, right? So the fact is that wherever you've seen adoption really take off, it's taken off because government is given subsidies, okay? And you look at even today with lithium battery price, the cost of lithium came down 10% in the last 3 months, right? That's because also the fact that they've found this huge amount of lithium now in the US. So we've found that there is resource for these rare earth minerals which are available, and it will drive down the cost. But that impact is not going to be seen for the next 2 to 3 years. Today, the cost of a vehicle, Rishi can correct me, is about almost 33 to 40% higher, right? For you to be able to put an electric bike on the road compared to an internal combustion bike, right? Now, your promise is that your running cost is going to be lower. But if the government would come in with a SOP, like they did in India, with the FAME 1, FAME 2 policy, is that they said that, look, we'll give you, depending upon the capacity of the battery that you're giving out, we will give you the subsidy. So you make the subsidy, bring the cost down on par with an internal combustion engine bike. Now suddenly there's no incentive for someone to not try the electric bike. That's second thing is the cost of charging. Most places now, even in India, charging stations are being rolled out, but in most of the cases, it's for free. They don't charge you. Now you're getting your energy or your fuel top up for free. So that makes a big difference. So even if you can't make it for free, at least bring down the cost. Of course, all the transmission, distribution issues need to be sorted out as well. The other parameter, I think, which basically needs to be addressed by the government also is somehow you have to come up with maybe an advertising or marketing issue of making it sexy. You know, the future is electric, but it's not been made sexy yet, right? It's not in vogue. So the question is the moment you are able to flip it to say, hey, you drive an electric car, you took an electric Buddha, you know, you make it sexy to conserve the environment. That needs to be done. So I think we are on the right path. I think there are a lot of great minds, and I think GA has taken a great first step, but I see that the future is electric.
Thank you very much. So I think we've come to the end of our session today, and I just want to thank all the participants here. I think for me, I don't know when the day will come when I say I have GA EcoDrive, and then it will be like, wow, you know. So it's really to say that I think when you say government, you say role of insurance, role of the financier, you know, making it sexy, seeing the product coming into the market, the role of reinsurance, I think, you know, you can see some of the reinsurance here. It's coming out that it needs a lot of collaboration from the many participants. So I want to thank everybody for coming in. I know this was a very, you know, very engaging discussion, and I look forward to hearing from everybody. Thank you very much.
A very insightful panel. You know, when I saw that, when I saw there were going to be six panelists, the challenge is how do you not make it boring and monotonous? But I think everyone spoke to their strengths. It was deeply insightful. I had, on my notes, I have like six takeouts. I think the first one was, who here knows a gentleman called Dan Early? Dan Early, behavior scientist. You know, he was in town many years ago. And, you know, this thing about tracking people and giving their data. Instead, the thing about behavior change is you have to not look like a prefect. Everyone says, I'm going to collect data so that I cannot pay out. That's the conversation many people hear when they think about telematics. And, you know, with EVs, you're looking at an ecosystem where the data is actually readily available. So the lesson here may be, how do you then not look as a bad cop? How do you drive the benefit that it may now be in vogue to say, you know, I'm just a better driver. Like in this room, I rank, in this room, I'm like number 10 out of 100. Something that makes me feel better as opposed to I'm collecting data so that I cannot pay out. How do we change that, you know, that sort of thinking? Great one on, by, you know, Karan. I like that analogy. How do you say name? Yeah, see a car coming towards you, run. Is on the circular economy and how you do cost recovery. I think that's an important step because we talk about recycling. These borders, see, we have to talk about that particular element and how everything fits in together. We need to address the issue of you know, data generation, you know, data privacy. We now have the Office of Commission data on a user on factors there. How do we then also make that? This units collect data, you know, that's data, fast data. Even if just from the few number of EVs on the road now. That's already a lot of information. What are we going to do different to make sure that we continue to innovate on the products of the future? Mr. Sandeep said, his experience is that the carbon markets are still inaccessible. He had to go to Europe to actually get inventory that is in Kenya. I'm not sure if that was the mangrove swamps out in Kilifi. Mangroves actually sequester a lot of, some of the highest carbon sequesters out there. But it's weird, like Kilifi is right here. Why do I need to go out to Europe to find the guy who's bought that and had it certified? That's not circular economy, that's going around in circles. We need to kind of like fix that, and hopefully the climate summit that was here will help address some of those. Most importantly, the cost. It's one of the things that I working with the teams at Rome and Basigo, the cost parity conversation is what is actually driving the change in public transport. If we need to see the same in regular transport that we use on a daily basis, I think achieving that cost parity will be important. My last one was a question to the guys in the EV space. Before I invite our chairman, Director Chongo, to give us our closing remarks, I think he stepped out for a minute, I'm looking at these bikes, and it's electric. But what's this? What's this? It's a petrol tank. Get where I'm going with that? What would an EV bike look like if you are imagining it from the start before the combustion engine? Would it be anything like this? We're retrofitting because we've had bikes that were using petrol, diesel, etc. What would this user experience look like if you are thinking straight up that we're building something with an electric motor? Would it look the same? How would that look? Just challenge to say, we work in constructs, we're working in a box, and this is how we envision these things looking. And it's the same thing we're doing for products. Now, as GA continues to innovate on this line of thought of saying, here's a new, and really think differently about deconstructing what we know to actually constructing the future that we actually don't know that we need. As we wait for Director Chongo to come back into the room, maybe I could collect a few thoughts from the room, insights from that panel, anyone with a thought they'd like to share, an insight, a question. I'll come right over to you. Please tell us your details.
Good. Thank you. My name is Steve Minder, the chairman of Continental. Our managing director is here, they're listening. Our experts are here, they are listening. Let me take this opportunity to thank the regulator. Where is Sandeep? Sandeep, congratulations for being a trailblazer. In this field. My question is to you. So I'm not going to let you off the hook. You are a pedestrian, citizen of Kenya, you are crossing, you trip over the cable that is charging your bike. You have nothing to do with the building. So the building catches fire. It has nothing to do with the electric. Do you cover that? What about the person who is tripping the cable, who is not part of your insurance? Have you taken care of that as well? Because those are hazards we are likely to face as we enter into this new era. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Sandeep.
Thank you, sir. It's a very interesting question, and in fact, this is one of the things actually we try to describe in the policy. So any kind of damage caused due to the electric cable, like tripping, you are an innocent pedestrian and somebody has just put the cable and it gets stuck in your leg and you fall over. That liability we will pay. we are pushing the cable, something goes wrong, and if the building catches fire, and if it is attributable to the cable, then up to the limits of liability as described in the policy, we will pay, sir.
Great insight. Also referring to what Ms. Sachit had said Sandeep had said on stage during the panel, points to the element of layered insurance. Yes, you drive an EV. How many of you have ever left batteries in a torch for too long? Ever. What happens? It leaks out and creates a really bad mess. And that's what talking about environmental contamination. And many times, again, what you don't think about, yes, you've got your EVs, and then they contaminate the environment. What next? So I think there's a great opportunity that you've already looked into of how do you connect the dots across these different products. You have one, but then you've got the environmental layer as well that still, comes well when you're thinking about SDGs and also ESGs. So, ladies and gentlemen, for closing remarks, I think I will call upon. Okay, 1 second. One of the senior leadership, Director Sachit, to come and give us his closing remarks, and actually a vote of thanks and closing remarks, and then we'll get to release you to the rest of your day. Karibu.
Good evening, everyone. Why are you saying good evening? Just checking if you're still awake. So, when I was told that we're having this event on this electric insurance, of course, we've all heard about electric cars, electric this, electric that, but it's been a real eye-opener for me. The first eye-opener was that how many people are in this room. So I'd like to thank all of you, because clearly there is a movement happening in this space. And we're hoping that it keeps on growing. You know, Kenya is a trailblazer in a lot of things. You know, IT is a big thing in this country. And I'm hoping that the electric movement also gets bigger and bigger. If anything, the price of fuel should push us towards electric, you know, and of course there are all the other benefits. So mine is just to say thank you to all of you, our distinguished guest from IRA, all the senior people here, Mr. Minder, nice to see you. He used to be the chairman of IRA at one time, so welcome, and all our brokers and our partners, thank you very much. We look forward to working with you. I know it's still early days, but we want to be ahead of the game, and we want to make sure that we're here to support you. I'm also hoping, even in the non-electric side, all of you are insuring with GA, and if you're not, please sign up over there and you'll get a gift as you walk out. And finally, our distinguished guest asked me, do EV cars only, you know, are they only small? Why aren't they other cars? So my answer to that was, well, the smaller cars are affordable, but then GA has put this car, so I'm hoping we get this sort of Lamborghini in electric soon as well. And I don't know, maybe GA will present them to some electric leaders. Finally, thank you very much. Thank you for your time. Thank you for listening to everything. And I hope we've all learned something new. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Sachit. And thank you all for joining us this morning, both physically and virtually. It's always great to get a full room that doesn't empty out after hospitality. And once again, my name is Bogon Jehia. I'd like to wish you a fantastic rest of the day and a lovely entry into the weekend. Remember, the future is Asanteni.
you.